Welcome to Simply Liminal. My name is Stacy, and I have to say this is a very spontaneous one-card read. While I was doing my two-card read today for the solar eclipse, I just was really struck with the idea that I needed to do a one-card reading. I wasn't sure if I was going to use the deck that I had been using for the rest of the week's readings, but I feel guided to use the Deep, Dark, and Dangerous Oracle by Stacy DeMarco. I use this deck. It's kind of like my go-to deck for shadow work. I have a couple other decks that I use, but it is probably my #1 go-to deck for shadow work. And I felt compelled to use it because we are in the shadow of the eclipse, there's powerful energy afoot. We are in eclipse season. We had the lunar eclipse with the last full moon, which was in Libra, which was kind of pretty, gentle, beautiful, delicate, balanced energy. And then we now have this new moon. We are in Aries season. So this is the new moon in Aries, and Aries is a completely different energy than Libra. It is, I am, I have, I'm going, I'm going to do what I need to do, and nothing's going to hold me back. That is Aries. He is a mover. And so I was really compelled to just pull one card from this shadow deck just with this eclipse energy in mind. And we'll see how this goes. So we are going to shuffle the deck 3 times and see what we have. And I really feel like I'm going to draw a card from the top of the deck. However we end up, this is our card. So I don't normally do that. I mean, I shuffle and draw differently at different times and places, but this is our card. This is, I just love the artwork. It's hard to kind of see because it's a shiny deck, but we have this beautiful red snake on a black background. Gorgeous, gorgeous card. Let me zoom in just a little bit more. I want to make sure we're able to see this okay. All right, so let us see what this Aries eclipse, this Aries new moon energy message is for us today through this deck. We have the Hydra. This is an interesting card, isn't it? The Hydra was an interesting monster. It was a monster that just kept growing. Kind of like energy can sometimes. The Hydra, if you battled it and cut its head off, it would sprout an extra head. It lost a head, but it grew 2 heads. If you cut another head off, it grew 2 more heads. It became this huge, huge, huge monster. And the way it was finally defeated is very interesting. But before we talk about that, I just want to talk about how we're in the midst of this incredible eclipse energy. It's building and building and building and building. This energy is like a Hydra. It just keeps growing. And you kind of, I feel like people, not us so much the collective, but maybe our governments, maybe our leaders, they're kind of trying to sweep away all the change that is coming. But the change can't be swept away. You can cut down 1 branch, but 2 more branches are going to spring up. Change is coming for us. Then this eclipse season, and especially, is bringing us the forward, abrupt energy of Aries change. So let me read what the Hydra card says. I got to get to the right spot in the book. Oh, sorry. I got to... this deck is also split up into 3 categories. There is the deep category, there is the dark category, and there is the dangerous category. And I'm trying to find... This is card 11. Okay, so 39. Page 39. Which is actually a number I'm pretty drawn to. 39. So I'm going to read everything that this says. She has a lot of information in here for us. It's a little bit difficult to read because it has a beautiful snakeskin pattern behind it. However, as my eyes get a little bit older, it's just a little bit more difficult to read the background. So bear with me. So the Hydra, this is a card of regeneration. And I talked about how you can't stop it. It just, you cut a head off and it grows again. And you cut another head off and it grows 2 more. So the message is, deal with the issue now. Do not allow it to become more complex or worse. Reject gossip. Look for the source of a problem. Go to the beginning to understand the motive. There's a duality message with these cards, and it is regeneration versus death, and now versus later. The Hydra of Lerna is a legendary creature whose legacy is recognized today. The infamous multi-headed water serpent's name and powers of regeneration are used in popular culture in a common saying to cut something off at the head, or if you don't cut things off at the head quick enough, two will likely take its place. Both these sayings are from the myth of the Hydra. In the second of the 12 labors, Heracles was charged by King Eurystheus? Sorry, something like that. King E. Yeah. Under the goddess Hera's control to kill the Hydra. Killing the Hydra would not be easy. The Hydra possessed breath that was deadly poison. Its odor could knock someone unconscious, and of course the 6 heads with the lethal power could dismember and eat you. If that wasn't enough, if you cut off one of the heads, at least 2 would grow in its place. Heracles covered his face tightly with cloth and his lion skin to stop the poison and fumes entering his lungs, and shot a flaming arrow into the lair of the monster. He was armed with a long, sharp sickle and club. The monster appeared, and he cut off one head. Immediately, of course, 2 grew in its place. Not exactly a great start. Heracles had his nephew Iolaus with him, and the young man witnessed the horror that regeneration of the Hydra's head. He had an idea, though, as how the Hydra's regrowth might be stopped, an idea possibly planted by Athena, who loves heroes. Iolaus took the flaming torch and told Heracles that if he cut off the head, he would quickly cauterize the stump with the flames. Perhaps this would work for them. So for the great force, Heracles cut off a head, and Iolaus used the torch, flames rising from the Hydra's body. It seemed to be working. And then Hera realized that perhaps the 2 heroes would be triumphant, sent a giant crab to attack them. Oh, Hera, she's just always such a villain. I don't see her that way at all. I see her as a very complicated goddess, but that's not for today, I guess. Heracles swung his club and smashed the shell and stepped heavily on it, neutralizing it. Soon there was only one head left, and with the golden sword gifted to him by Athena, Heracles swung hard and removed the last Hydra head. He placed the head still alive between 2 rocks and the sacred way between Lerna and Iolaus. There he collected some of the Hydra's poisonous blood to use as a weapon in the future. When the king recognized that Heracles did indeed conquer the Hydra, he imposed another 2 labors upon him. With the original labors were 10, and suddenly became 12. Because he had assistance from his nephew, and the idea of using the torch to cauterize was not his own. Hera was sad that her creature had been killed and raised it up into the sky as the constellation Hydra to shine in immortality. So it's an interesting story. And one thing that I want to mention about the Hydra I think is really important is even though ultimately Heracles, with help, and by the way, Heracles had help in every one of his labors. He did not do anything alone. He had advice, he had weapons, he was given a lot of assistance to accomplish all these things. And there's a message in that as well. But the Hydra might have died in its physical form, but it was transformed by the goddess Hera into the beautiful constellation we see in the night sky. So in a sense, the Hydra continued to regenerate and become something ever more in our night sky. We also learn from this tale that if something seems insurmountable, it's not. But you might need to rely on other people for help. And that's okay. Sometimes we need help. We need guidance. We need good advice. We need assistance. We need a crafty nephew with a torch and a good idea to help us move forward on this project. There's also a little funny message in here about how, you know, Heracles suddenly was given 2 more challenges that he had to face, which seems unfair. Like, you feel like you've made it to the end and suddenly someone says, no, you're not at the end. You got to keep going. I mean, there's so much insight and wisdom in these messages. But what I think we need to learn from today is that nothing is undefeatable, and we can, with assistance, triumph. But ultimately, the creature that he was trying to kill lived on eternally. So this is a really interesting message. I feel like the eclipse energy is a little bit like that. Like, there's no stopping it. There's no changing it. You might shift it a little bit, but it is here with us. And it's going to continue to grow, and it's going to continue to become something different. And we, as members of the collective and members of society, we can weather this storm if we rely on each other for help and know that ultimately our goal is to create something better and more beautiful than the Hydra was to start with, by creating something that lives forever in the night sky. It's a really interesting reading. I'm really looking forward to see how this energy plays through really till the next eclipse season. I'm going to keep this on my mind. I hope you've enjoyed this spontaneous reading. Please let me know what you thought about it. If you hate it, I'll just go back to my daily 2-card readings, which I'm going to continue to do. But if you loved it, I might throw a spontaneous reading in every now and then. I hope everybody has a wonderful day. I hope everybody got a glimmer of the eclipse, gets to bask in its energy a little bit. Please don't look directly at it. It is not good for your vision. But go out and absorb some of that energy, whether you can see it or not, whether you're in a place in the world that you can see any part of it. The eclipse is with us all, and it's shifting things for us. So I hope you have a wonderful day. My name is Stacy. Thank you for visiting Simply Liminal with me.